More evidence that the 15.5-inch MacBook Air is coming at WWDC, 27-inch mini-LED displays are on hold, is the Mac Pro in trouble again, and the iPhone 15 roundup with all of the latest news, plus your questions. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. We've got even more evidence that the MacBook Air will be getting a bigger variant in the coming months. Ross Young has indicated that based on display volumes, he would be looking at the MacBook Air with the 15.5-inch LCD display to be ready to go in late April or May, though being that close to WWDC, it would be far more likely that that would be the launch date along with Apple's M3 chips. Apple's fab partner TSMC has been churning out 3nm chips since December, according to reports, and it's likely that at least some of these are Apple's M3 based on the A16's cores in last year's iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, Everest and Sawtooth cores, scaled to the more efficient production node of 3nm. Now, I can't guarantee that the MacBook Air will be at WWDC. It could drop earlier, but it makes very little sense for it to arrive a year after the smaller model with the same M2 chip. That would just push the M3 launch way off into the future. It would be the equivalent of the M1 Pro and Max MacBook Pros being launched in just the 14-inch size back in October of 2021, only for the 16-inch to come in October 2022, and then both sizes being replaced in January of 2023 with the M2 Pro and Maxes. You can imagine the rage that the 16-inch M1 owners would have had if that had happened. Speaking of things that are coming at WWDC, the 27-inch mini-LED version of the Studio display with 120Hz ProMotion isn't. The latest reports from, again, Ross Displayman show that even though some panels have been sent to Apple already, production has been suspended. This could indicate a couple of different possibilities. Now, the first is that there were major issues with the panels that were already shipped to Apple and the producer wasn't able to fix in time, so Apple has put the whole thing on hold. Or, and this is probably more likely, that Apple is happy with the panels but isn't planning for them to ship until later than everyone else expected. But what does that mean for the Mac Pro? So we'd heard about a reveal at WWDC, but some had suggested that it won't launch without the new display, just like the Mac Studio with the Studio display, or the last Mac Pro in 2019 with the Pro Display XDR. And it's a very good point, but also the Mac Pro was announced at WWDC and shipped in December.
This is the new Mac Pro.
There's no reason that Apple would need those panels right now if the same is happening again. 2013's Mac Pro also came out in December after a WWDC unveil.
Can't innovate anymore, my ass.
Apple is never in a rush with these things, and the volumes aren't huge, and that includes on the displays because those displays are not cheap. So does this worry me about the future of the Mac Pro? No, not at all. In fact, I might be more bullish about the performance now. There's no reason that the 3nm wafers that TSMC are making can only have a single chip design per wafer. Each could in theory have a mix with larger Ultra chips in the centre, which can be cut down to Max and Pro chips where required whenever there are flaws in the wafer. Then M3 chips, which are a lot smaller, can fill the edge gaps too, giving the best yield possible from each wafer. So, if the actual release is not until later in the year, we could legitimately be getting M3 Ultra chips based on 3nm nodes, which would be far more efficient and faster too. So fingers crossed, that's what we'll be getting. We'll be getting those MPX style modules with different compute cores within them, i.e. M3 Ultras. Now, before we get to the iPhone 15 stuff, if you want a shout out in the next episode, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell, and when you've turned on notifications on the post, use hashtag notification squad down in the comments so that I can thank you personally in that next video. Right, iPhone 15. So this is going to be kind of a roundup. We are looking at the new style titanium frame. This is obviously for the pros. I think the regular 15 is probably going to get the curved edges as well, but the titanium frame with the curved edges, that's going to be for the Pro and Pro Max, or potentially called Ultra models. It is going to be even chunkier on the cameras. The camera bump is getting even thicker. Now, this for some people is definitely a downside. For me, I mean, that's got to be good because it means that the camera is going to look even better. Basically, the bigger you can make those cameras and the bigger you can make the sensors behind them, the better image you get, especially in the dark. You're also going to have much thinner bezels around the display by all accounts, and that display is going to curve slightly away at the edges, making it look even more like one of those infinity displays that we've seen in the past. USB-C is still being rumoured. I'm not 100% convinced. I think it's like 95% going to happen, but I also think maybe we've got another year of Lightning lightning before USB-C comes. People are going to lose their minds if it's still got lightning on it. Also, we're seeing that the buttons for power and also the volume rocker is going to be turning haptic, and also the mute switch is going away, but there is potentially good news here because the latest rumours say that this could become an action button just like on the Apple Watch Ultra, which means you'd be able to sort of program it to do different things. It wouldn't just have to be a mute switch. That kind of makes sense to me. Think about what the iPad had when it had the physical mute switch. You could decide whether it was going to be mute or whether it was going to be rotation lock. Why not give you a software feature where you can choose a couple of other options, just like on that Apple Watch Ultra? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Next up, your questions. And if you want to get a question in the next show, iCave Answers, use the hashtag down in the comments so that Siri knows what question you want answered first. What is our first question, Siri?
Book Grin and Jocks iCave Answers. What does the AirPods refresh timeline look like? AirPods 4th Gen. Max 2 Pro 3rd Gen when, and what can we expect?
So from my point of view, it looks like AirPods refreshes is going to be pretty much every 3 years. That's what we've seen with the AirPods 2 being replaced with the AirPods 3rd generation. That was a 3-year gap. The AirPods Pro to the AirPods Pro 2, 3-year gap. That would mean this year we are due the Max 2. I can't imagine it's going to be a huge difference. They might include perhaps some better codecs so that we can get something close to lossless. I think it's mainly going to be colours and maybe a little bit of a design refresh. It would be interesting if they would let you mix and match your ear cushions and your band colours from the factory. That would be quite cool. Or potentially if you could change the mesh on the top of those headphones as well, because then when they get a bit stinky, you can pull it off, you can wash it, you can put it back on, or you can mix and match and you can have cooler colour combinations and look a bit like Iron Man. Next up, Black Greninja.
iCave Answers. When do we get the M3 Max MacBook Pros? Any chance Apple increases screen sizes to 15-inch and 18-inch for the MacBooks by M5 Pro and M5 Max chip?
So we'll take the second part first. I don't think we're going to see bigger displays than these. There's no reason that Apple would go above the 16-inch to an 18-inch because they can't put a bigger battery in there. So it's just going to, you know, sap more battery life to use a bigger display. It's not going to fit in anyone's bags. So I don't think we're going to see 18-inch MacBook Pros. No. Apple's never gone that big in the past. Why would they start now? But in terms of the M3 Pro and M3 Max, I think it's going to be either very late this year, so potentially November, December time, or early next year like we had this year. I think they were aiming to get them out a little bit earlier last year, so potentially at the end of the year rather than the beginning of 2024. That's my hope. Ooh. Ted wants to say hi. Right, off you go.
Team Kinetics iCave Answers. We're hearing rumors of solid-state buttons coming to iPhone 15. Including a solid-state silent mode button in place of the silence switch. What software function might Apple implement to make this more user-friendly?
Obviously, we've covered this button a little bit in the previous section. I think that action button thing does kind of make sense. I think it would make a pretty decent option. Give you the option of starting timers, perhaps, if you need to do that regularly. For example, with Ollie, who's our son who's diabetic, we quite often need to have a 15-minute timer, so when his insulin's gone in, then we know that that's the time to deliver food. So if you have a regular timer that you use like that, very handy. Maybe it is for walking workouts. Maybe it's to open up your podcast app. If it's something that you do every time when you get into your car, there might be something like that. These are some of the options. Let me know your thoughts of what it could do in the comments.
Team Kinetics WWDC speculation. Is it a software event? Will we get hardware? Will we see the Mac Pro and a headset? Will M3 be announced or teased? Or are we all going to be horribly let down if it's a software event with no surprises?
Now, if it does turn out that WWDC is going to be a purely software event, that will be a big surprise, but I think then there would be also extra events that are around it or online refreshers that would launch some of those other products. I can't see M3 being a press release kind of launch because it is a huge leap in terms of that process node going to 3nm process. That's going to make a big difference, and I think Apple will want to sing about the big changes in efficiency and performance, so that makes a lot of sense. And also we are hearing that there are not huge changes in software. The one software platform that seems to be getting the biggest changes is Apple Watch, because Mark Gurman is expecting that there will be very little change in terms of the hardware this year, so a bit of an overhaul of the software, the interfaces, not even just aesthetics but actually the way that it works. That's quite exciting, but the big talking points, at least, are going to be AR, they're going to be the new Mac Pro and M3. That's my thoughts. We don't even have any idea of what macOS is going to be called this time.
YuriTech #iCave answers, now that Elon Musk is going to restrict non-Twitter users to be able to go viral via removing them from For You timeline, what do you think is the alternative? Or next Twitter?
I'm going to be honest with you, I have never seen Twitter as a place to go viral. It's always just been a place where I can chat and have community talk with people. So that's where I think it's going. I don't think anyone's going to really move away from Twitter. There's been a handful of people that have moved away. It's not actually a huge different platform from what it's been in the past. Has it had a few more bugs? Yeah. Are there a few more idiots on there? Yeah. But I also think in general, Twitter experiences based on the people that you interact with there, and if you don't interact with the people that are idiots, you don't get shown more of it in your timeline anyway. Am I going to start paying for it? Probably not, but I'm not going to rule it out, because if it does boost reach, and it boosts reach enough that I make that money back on the back end of YouTube, yeah, that's a decent investment. It feels dirty to do it, but it's a business at the end of the day. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget, subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell. #notification squad down in the comment section. Thank you to all the old Patreons up here. You guys are awesome. And I will see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.